Hi guys, I'm Chris from the Touchline Reports and let's cover this week in fantasy football. My weekend started off awful on Friday night when I captained Cole Palmer, and just to find out 5 minutes before kickoff that Palmer had picked up an injury in the warm-up and has been taken out of the starting 11. Aside from Palmer, I also had a Shapong in defense and he also didn't start. And given that Chelsea didn't hold a clean sheet, maybe that's not so bad. But let's get into the game. First game of the weekend was Chelsea against West Ham. West Ham started the game off great with a spectacular goal from Paqueta. Chelsea looked so good against West Ham. West Ham looked so poor in defense. I give Graham Potter maybe 3 more months before he's given the boot. And yeah, star of the game was João Pedro, but João Pedro scored 15 points on Fantasy Premier League. And I got none of those points. It's pretty a devastating weekend, I'm not gonna lie. Terrible match week. Let's get into it. Here's my team. My Game Week 2 team. And after Game Week 2, I netted 44 points. I dropped down from rank 631,000 to in the 2 millions. Looking at my team, you can see nobody scored anything. Of course, Haaland was my vice captain, which was nice because he had 2 points and now he has 4. Spectacular. Yeah, there's not much to say about this weekend. It was truly tragic. Of course, Man City failed to score against Tottenham at home. Luckily, I had Mickey van der Ven netting me the 6 points for a clean sheet. Another disappointment this week was Nottingham Forest not keeping a clean sheet against Palace, and Chris Wood also failing to score. Luckily for the new game week, Chris Wood would be playing against West Ham United, and looking at how terrible that defense is, I'm so hopeful for a Chris Wood hat-trick. To be honest, I need that. If we take a look at the Arsenal game against Leeds, fortunate for Arsenal, they picked up 2 injuries that game to Martin Odegaard and Bukayo Saka. Apparently, Bukayo Saka picked up a hamstring injury, but it doesn't seem that bad. He has a 75% chance of starting the next game against Liverpool. But let's get into the real tragedy. Manchester United versus Fulham. So, going into Sunday, my weekend was already terrible. And then Manchester United go to Craven Cottage, and the first 3 minutes of that game was spectacular. I was really thinking like, damn, Manchester United can win this, they can get a clean sheet, so I might get the 6 points off Drogu. Drogu might assist, he looks dangerous. And Bruno Fernandes just won a penalty. What an awful penalty that was. Bruno Fernandes, usually automatic from the penalty spot, absolutely skies it. He receives the -2 points for missing a penalty. I think Bruno is the only player to pick up a DEFCON this weekend, and it was all undone by missing a penalty. If he would have scored that penalty, Bruno would have maybe been on 9 points, plus man of the match, maybe 11 to 13 points, and then my weekend would have been saved. But unfortunately, that's not how it works. So, yes, players on my radar. Currently, I'm looking at João Pedro, 7.5 million. He looks fantastic in that Chelsea side. And then also Matheus Cunha. Matheus Cunha looks dangerous. He looked dangerous in the Arsenal game. He looked very dangerous in the Fulham game. Unfortunately, he didn't score, but going into game week 3, they're playing against Burnley. And I'm hopeful that either Cunha or Mbeumo will score. Yes, but that brings another big problem for me this week, is I'm going to use a wild card. I don't like my team setup. I feel like all these players is going to be terrible in game week 3, so I'm looking to do a wild card. So let's take a look at my wild card draft for game week 3. Starting off with my bench, I have Richards, Mo Salah and Saliba. Mo Salah, I don't want to start him because they're playing against Arsenal, and Saliba playing against Liverpool at Anfield. I'm not too convinced that Arsenal will get a clean sheet that game, looking at how dangerous that Liverpool attack is. And yeah, there's a chance that Salah might score or even assist that game, might pick up points. So closer to game week, I might put him in the squad. But let's look at the squad. Goalkeeper is unchanged. I'm sticking with Jordan Pickford. After a fantastic weekend, he really kept my team together with 15 points. Of course, he saved a penalty and just netted a clean sheet as well. Jordan Pickford, what an absolute great goalkeeper. And they're playing away to Wolves. I don't see Wolves scoring against Everton. I'm sticking with Patrick Drogo as well. They're playing against Burnley. I'm still hopeful that Patrick Drogo will net a few assists this season. Aside from set pieces, this Manchester United team does look defensively sound. So I'm hopeful for a few clean sheets as well from this Manchester United side. In defense, I've also gone for Mickey van der Ven at Bournemouth. Might be a clean sheet for him. I'm more picking Mickey van der Ven for his goal threat. So two defenders that I'm sticking with is Patrick Drogo and Mickey van der Ven. And then also Milinkovic, also sticking with him. They're playing against West Ham United at home. I don't see West Ham scoring. I don't see West Ham winning. I might even see Milinkovic score. He's a set-piece threat. And looking at how West Ham defended against Chelsea, all signs point to a goal from a set-piece. Also sticking with Declan Rice. Listen, there's one thing certain in life. That's death, taxes, and of course Arsenal scoring from a set piece. And then Brennan Johnson is currently 2-2. And yeah, he had perfect form last year as well when he burst onto the scene, scoring a ton of goals. I say a ton, it's not a ton, but he's in good form currently, picking up from where he left off in last season. Of course, he scored the goal in the Europa League final as well. So I'm sticking with Brennan Johnson, or I'm getting Brennan Johnson in my team. And then also Semenyo. Semenyo is one that I'm not too sure about. He's going to play against Tottenham. I can see Bournemouth getting one goal on the counter, and then if they're going to counter, I see Semenyo being the one who's going to score. But more so, I'm looking at Semenyo as he's a very consistent performer in Fantasy Premier League. He nets a few assists here and there. He might score a goal. Semenyo looks like a decent pickup. He's now 7.6 million. So his price is going up. It might even go up after this weekend. I think Semenyo is going to be a fantastic player. I think it should be in most people's matchday squad, and that might push me to go for a differential on that. But for now, I'm looking at Semenyo. And then also I'm looking to bring in Cunha. Cunha, of course, is playing Burnley, and then the match after that is against Man City at the Etihad. United usually perform well in that high-stake games, so I think either Cunha or Mbeumo is my picks. I might even bring in Mbeumo over a Brennan Johnson or even over a Semenyo, but currently this is the draft I'm going for. And then, no surprise, João Pedro. João Pedro looked fantastic against West Ham, and I suspect he's going to look good against Fulham as well. Of course, he's going to play at Stamford Bridge, so it's going to be a home match, and I suspect it's going to be quite dangerous. Fulham does have a decent defense, we saw over the weekend, but I'm not convinced Fulham's going to be a decent team against Chelsea. Chelsea looks very good this season, even without Cole Palmer. On Friday night, they look very dangerous, and the injury to Palmer is apparently just a precaution that they took him out, so he might even start against Fulham. But more so, I'm taking Cole Palmer out of this team because he's not a great return over the last 6 months on the FPL. So I think Palmer for 10 million, there's better options. Bukayo Saka, someone I'm looking at, but with the injury picked up, I'm hesitant to take the gamble on Saka, especially with their fixtures playing against Liverpool. So I might later on swap him out for Mo Salah, swap Mo Salah out for Bukayo Saka. Yeah, next player is Richarlison. Now Richarlison is someone who's on the fringe here. Another striker I'm looking at instead of Richarlison is Ekitike. Ekitike is like 2 million more, so I'll have to move pieces around to get the budget for that. But currently I'm sticking with Richarlison, and my third striker as well being Chris Wood. Chris Wood against Fulham, I think that's a no-brainer. So yeah, this is my current wildcard draft. I've unfortunately already played the chip, so I need to put out a new team. But yeah, stay tuned for the Thursday episode when I will be locking in this wildcard draft. Like I said, I'm not completely set on this team. Players that certainly I'm going to stick with is Mo Salah and Chris Wood. But then there's an option of maybe switching Mo Salah for Mbeumo and finding a way to get Haaland in this team as well. Because Haaland's next fixtures is against Brighton, and then I think they play one of the relegation sides. So it might be worth going for Haaland. No, Haaland's fixtures are Brighton and then Manchester United. Haaland's usually dangerous against Manchester United, especially if Manchester United's defense on the set pieces continue the way they're continuing. If Bayern Diaz is going to keep his position as a goalkeeper at Manchester United, I will definitely go for Haaland over Salah. I mean, yeah, I'm completely lost after this game week. It might be a knee-jerk reaction. I know patience is a virtue in this game. But after this weekend, I'm completely a broken man, and I'm going for the wild card to spice things up. So yeah, guys, I've been Chris from the Touchline Report. Let me know about this wild card draft, and is there somebody else that I'm overlooking? Somebody that's in your team that's performed great over the past 2 game weeks? Like I said, guys, I'm really at wit's end. I'm trying to salvage a few points for game week 3 before the international break. And then also I will have 2 free transfers going into game week 4, and I'm probably going to save that as well. So the team I'm looking at in this wildcard draft, I want to keep for at least 3 game weeks before making transfers again. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe, and I've been Chris from Touchline Reports. Cheers.